I was diagnosed in 2011. It was kind of odd how I was diagnosed. Nobody realized what it was for a very long time, and I went to my dentist, and they wouldn't work on me because it was painful. I found out that later on that trigeminal patients often get all their teeth removed because they think they have a toothache before they get diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia. But my masseuse was the one who first said, did you ever look into trigeminal neuralgia? So I went to my neurologist, and sure enough, they diagnosed me then with trigeminal neuralgia.
And how did this affect your family life?
It was very difficult because I often would be in pain, and especially when the inflammation peaked, it was hard to eat dinner. I would squinch every time I would eat, and so my sons would have a hard time looking at me during dinner. And there were times when I would sit on my couch and just I couldn't function. So it affected my family in the sense that I couldn't be me. I was very sad and unhappy and in pain. I couldn't function other than, sometimes just existing. It's known as the suicide disorder. My sons discovered once while they were on the internet. And I wish, in a sense, that they hadn't discovered that, because it kind of planted that seed in my mind and in my children's mind how serious it truly was.
And what about work? How did this affect you that way?
The first time I was diagnosed and when the inflammation peaked, I was out of work for 2 months, which was very debilitating for me because at the time I was a single mother and very frightened about providing for my kids. And so I had to take off at a certain point. And unfortunately, because it's an unseen illness, I didn't get a lot of understanding at work at that point. And there was a sick day bank committee who voted whether or not I would get coverage during that time. And they voted against me. They said mostly people with cancer get that sick day bank time. Eventually, they were forced by the NJEA to pay for 2 weeks out of that time. But I still had to buy back my retirement time.
So what would you do differently regarding your diagnosis if you were someone else finding out what you've got at this moment?
Well, I guess what I would do differently is try to find out sooner what was going on. I think I just kept waiting for it to go away. I didn't, I guess I was caught in a rut with the trigeminal to the point where I just was like, I don't know, debilitated or frozen with it. And I probably would have moved faster with it if I could do it over.
And do you think people know a lot more about what this is today, or are we still at the same point as you were when you had the committee choose against your coverage?
It's hard for me to say. I feel like the people around me are more educated now because I've educated them. I don't know about the outside world. Looking on the internet, it seems like there's only a few videos and things about trigeminal, but they're very well liked. There's a high percentage of likage. But I think it's because there is so little out there that the ones that are out there are very frequently viewed.
Right.
Well, it's very interesting. Trigeminal, for me, was basically had flare-ups based on either when I was sick or had colds or when I was extremely stressed.
So take me through the timeline from your diagnosis and the other points in between when you got, or afterward, that you had flare-ups.
Okay. Originally, I got diagnosed finally in 2011, and then, I was out of work for 2 months because I had a major flare-up. And then I met my husband, and I always joke with him, the last time that I had a flare-up for 5 years was the day before we got married, and I said he cured me. And then after that, for 5 years, it was dormant. So I thought, I was like, oh, great, I can do this. I don't have to worry about this anymore. And then a family member, a very close family member of mine, was misdiagnosed with something, and I was taking care of them. And the stress of that sent me into another bout of trigeminal, which also was, again, it seemed 2 months was the amount of time. So I was out of work again. And then it got a little better, but then I went through more stress with a family member, and it came back full-fledged, and then it wouldn't go away, and I was stuck in a cycle of pain, and I couldn't seem to get out of it. And that's when I went to my neurologist and said, I need to do the surgery, and he concurred. And that was the point when I was ready to go do my surgery.
So how did you come to the decision to finally just have the surgery?
Well, I was stuck in a pain cycle, and I just couldn't get out of the pain cycle. And I said to myself, I can't keep wondering when the pain is going to end or when the pain is going to begin. It was taking over my life way too much. So I said to my neurologist, can I do this? Can I finally do this? He had mentioned to me that he had a previous patient who was in so much pain that he finally came to him and said, if you don't give me the surgery, I'm gonna hurt myself. I'm gonna end it. And when he said that to me, I said to myself, I know that feeling, and I don't want to live in fear of when the next pain bout is coming. And so he recommended a doctor to me. Unfortunately, that doctor did not take my insurance, so I decided to go right to the best. And so I went to New York Presbyterian Hospital, and Dr. Stieg is the best, and he is the lead neurosurgeon at that hospital, and he is the one who did my surgery.
Talk about your fears when you knew that you'd made the decision to do this. How fearful were you?
It was mixed. I was fearful because it's brain surgery. You know, Dr. Stieg did say to me in the consult, you having the happy brain surgery, and I thought that was odd, but he said a lot of times he's doing brain tumors and things like that are more questionable, where mine is just to remove pain, and that is a 70 to 80% chance that it's going to be successful.
And how did you find Dr. Stieg?
Actually, someone at work had mentioned to me that they were getting surgery for their back at a place near there, and somehow it led me, it was like a street over from the place that they were going, it led me to find Dr. Stieg, and I think that place had me call Dr. Stieg, and they said that he's the best in New York.
And how did you know that this was the right decision? What was it that said to you, okay, I'm going to do it, sign on the dotted line?
I just knew that I couldn't live with the trigeminal anymore. I couldn't live with it taking over my life and taking over my family and my work and everything that I love.
Now this is brain surgery. When you told people, first your family, then friends, co-workers, that you were going to do this, what were the reactions?
There were mixed reactions, depending on the person. There were people in my life who had said, well, Melanie, if you could just deal with stress better, and you wouldn't have to do the brain surgery. There's a book about dealing with pain. It's like back pain, but it's pain in general. My friend had me read it, and she wanted me to realize that if I could control my stressors in my life and deal with those better. But you know what? My personality is that I am very sensitive. I am very emotional, and I couldn't control that. So other people were very supportive, saying that, they look scared in their face when they were talking to me. Oh, brain surgery, if you need to do that, we support you. But I could tell people were a little nervous, as of course I was.
And how did you prepare yourself for the actual surgery?
I prepared myself by not preparing myself, in a way. I went to the consult. I heard what he had to say. My husband was supportive. My family was supportive. My parents were tired of seeing their daughter in pain. But I didn't want to know too much. And I think that was the best way for me and my personality, because I do suffer from anxiety. I decided that maybe less was more for me. And I think it ended up being the best thing, because I didn't know what to expect. And sometimes when you don't know what to expect, it happens better because you're not planting negative seeds.
And now take me through the moment when the first memories that you have from waking up after the surgery was complete.
I have to say, it was kind of amazing, because the moment I woke up, the anesthesia really affected me negatively, because I was like very loopy and I said a lot of crazy things. I thought that they were serving me poop on a platter, and it was really just veggies and pasta. So I was very loopy, but I I felt better than I had in years. The moment I woke up, felt reborn. I was counseling the staff as they came in about whatever they were going through, and people were visiting me. I was in the intensive care unit for a couple of days, and I was higher functioning than a lot of other people there. So it was more like a party to me than it was sitting in ICU.
So you were pain-free, so you were finally...
Pain-free instantly, and have been ever since.
And what would you want others to know about the surgery itself? Is there anything that you would share? Because I know there are some things you don't want to share. You'd
Just 'cause
rather,
I don't wanna.
just because you would have preferred not to know, just to be less anxiety.
Right. I don't want to shape other people's experience because everybody's is going to be different. And but what I would like to share is that there was really no pain for me. To be honest, the worst thing would be if I took Percocet and you would become constipated, because then, but I chose to not even have Percocet. I just did Tylenol the entire time for my pain, and that worked perfectly for me.
And is there anything that you would have done differently regarding the whole decision making in the actual surgery? Anything that you wish that you'd done differently now looking back?
I would have had the surgery sooner. 2011 to now 2019, I think about all the time that I wasted kind of being in pain when I could have had the surgery.
So we're at day 28 post-surgery. So take me from the beginning of what we'll call post-surgery, and how did you feel? You're out and you're say at home by this point.
I was amazed about how good I felt right away. I wanted to do more probably than I should have, because I just felt so amazing from not having pain and not living with pain. But I realized that I did have to stay home. I can't drive. I have to take certain medications. And so...
Talk about your energy level.
At first, my energy level was normal. And the more I took certain medications, the more my energy level changed. And I ended up having almost too much energy, to be honest. I wasn't sleeping for a while, and I was doing many projects around the house, and my family was a little worried about me for a while because I had such a weird reaction. Apparently only 10% of people have my reaction to some of the medications, but I felt great, and I was going for many walks, and I was full of energy, but it was hard for people around me to see how much energy I had.
Talk about your sleep cycle.
My sleep cycle was affected. They did tell us that it probably would be. And there was a couple of weeks where I was sleeping only 1 or 2 hours at a time at night. And the rest of the time I was up, just like I said, wanting to accomplish something, wanting to go for a walk. I wanted to keep moving. And it was very disconcerting for my family at the time.
So what kind of things did you do when you had all this energy?
I would write lists of things I wanted to accomplish. And then a lot of times I needed to accomplish whatever idea came to my mind right away. I would perseverate about whatever it is I thought I needed to accomplish. I thought, I need to get this done now, or I might forget what I need to accomplish.
And talk about the meds that you've taken and how those affected you.
Specific names or just general?
No names.
Just general. Okay.
No names.
Well, the one medication I took that was supposed to help inflammation, that affected me the most. Apparently, that was what kind of made me what you might call manic for a while. And I've heard from my sister-in-law, when she used to work in like a NICU with younger kids, that a lot of the kids got mania when they were taking this specific medication. So what happened to me wasn't that uncommon. But I did a lot of crazy things. I ordered a $5,000 couch in the middle of the night, and it made my husband very nervous. Put us in the red for a little bit.
And talk about some of the other things that you did that you would say would be out of characteristics, and what would you want people to know so that they can know, hey, watch out for this?
Yeah. Well, the big thing is that my whole life, I'm going to be 50 next year, I had only bought one couch. Like I didn't feel the need to have stuff that's new. That wasn't part of my personality. I was just like, if something works, you use it. You don't buy something just because you want something new. That was kind of my mindset and my husband's mindset. And so it was scary to people around me that suddenly I was just going on buying sprees. And so that was a big change in my personality, going from being kind of sparse and living in a minimalistic way to suddenly needing all these materialistic things that I never really needed before.
So how did you handle that?
Well, I didn't handle it. My husband handled it. He talked to the doctor, and we went into the doctor right away because of my exaggerated experience, and they put me on another medication that calmed me down.
And what would you want other people who are experiencing this to know about the post-surgery procedures and what you went through? What things would you want to make sure people know?
I guess the most important thing is to really listen to your doctor and really follow what they have to say, because they told me 6 weeks was going to be the normal healing process. Well, by 3 weeks, I felt so great that I went out on my own and on one of my shopping sprees, and it was hot out, and I had an experience where I almost fell into the street because I got so dizzy and so weak that I had to hold on to the telephone pole that was near me so that I wouldn't collapse. I was really nervous I was going to fall in the street and get hit by a car, and that was scary. And so when I went back that day and I shared it with my husband, we went back to the drawing board and said, you know what, we got to remember, you're still in the healing process. You need to remember to follow the instructions and be explicit about it. And so I went off screens. We treat it like a concussion. I went off all screens, and I kind of said to myself, I'm going to stay in my pajamas because that will hold my mindset to, okay, if I stay in my pajamas, it reminds me I'm still healing.
And what about the people around you? Again, it's not something like a broken arm that people can visibly see. Do people really understand what you've been through?
Well, it was kind of funny. For example, my mom had lost my brother to a helicopter accident years ago, so I'm the only child left. And so knowing that my mother was, her only child was having brain surgery was very fearful of it. So my mom would come over every day from the moment I came home from ICU. I never had one day of solitude from anybody because there were so many people coming in and out. And I really, their reaction was I would be in such a good mood and I would be so happy to have no pain that every once in a while I'd be like, I had brain surgery, right? And so my parents got me a t-shirt that said I had brain surgery and the B was backwards, and kind of as a joke. But you know what? Sometimes I wear it places because then I don't have to explain why I'm acting a little weird. Really, the best way to explain how I feel after the surgery is if you've ever seen the movie Elf. I feel like the female version of Elf. Oh, life is so wonderful. Look, there's this, there's that. Isn't it great to be alive? That kind of thing. That's the best way I could describe, the feeling I have.
So no regrets.
No regrets. Like, I mean, it's brain surgery. You have to take it seriously. Everybody handles it differently. Everybody's body is different. For me, I would do it over again 10 times to have this result.